Chapter 3. I telephoned Dibs' mother and requested a conference with her as soon as we might arrange one. She said that she had been expecting my call. She would be pleased if I would have tea at their home, perhaps the following day at 4 o'clock. I thanked her and accepted the invitation. The family lived in one of the old brownstone houses on the Upper East Side of the city. The exterior had been kept up with great care and fastidiousness. The door was highly polished and brass trim shining. The house was located on a beautiful old street and seemed to have preserved the essence of the days when these lovely old mansions were erected. I opened the wrought iron gate, walked up the steps, and rang the door chimes. Through the closed door, I could hear muffled screams. "No lock door! No lock door! No! No! No!" The voice trailed off into silence. Apparently, Dibs was not going to join us for tea. A uniformed maid opened the door. I introduced myself. She invited me into the drawing room. The maid was a very trim, serious woman who looked as though she could have been with the family for many years. She was remote, precise, formal. I wondered if she ever smiled or even felt that there was anything light and amusing in the world. If so, she was well disciplined and concealed any individual identity and spontaneity. Dibs' mother greeted me graciously but seriously. We made the usual introductory remarks about the weather and how nice it was to have this opportunity to visit one another. The house was beautifully and precisely furnished. The drawing room didn't look as though a child had ever spent 5 minutes there. In fact, there was no signs that anyone really lived in this house. Tea was brought in. The service was beautiful. She didn't waste much time structuring the situation. "I understand that you have been called in as a consultant to study Dibs," she said. "It is very kind of you to undertake this assignment, and I want you to know that we do not expect any miracle. We have accepted the tragedy of Dibs. I know something about your professional reputation and have great respect for research into all sciences, including the science of human behavior. We do not expect any changes in Dibs, but if in studying this child you can advance the understanding of human behavior even a little, we are more than willing to cooperate." It was incredible. Here she was, in the best scientific manner, offering me some data to study. Not a child in trouble, not her son, some raw data. And she made it very clear that she did not expect any changes in the data, at least no changes for the better. I listened as she told me very briefly the vital statistics of Dibs. His date of birth, the slow progress, the obvious retardation, the possibility of organic involvement. She sat in her chair, almost without moving, tense, terribly controlled. Her face was very pale. Her grey hair was parted in the middle and pulled back into a knot at the nape of her neck. Her eyes were light blue. Her lips were thinned into line. Occasionally, she bit her lip nervously. Her dress was steel grey, classically simple. In a cold way, she was a very handsome woman. It would be difficult to guess her age. She looked as though she was well up in her 50s, but she could have been much younger. She had precise, intelligent speech. She seemed to be putting up a brave front, but in all probability, she was as deeply and tragically unhappy as Dibs. Then she asked me if I would study Dibs here in his playroom, upstairs in the back. "It is upstairs, in the rear of the house," she said. "No one would ever interrupt or bother you there. He has many toys, and we would be glad to get any other material you might want or need. No, thank you, I said. It would be better if I see him in the playroom at the Child Guidance Center. The sessions will be once a week for an hour. This was obviously a disturbing arrangement. She tried again. He has many lovely toys in his room. We would be pleased to pay you a higher fee if you would come here. I'm sorry, but I couldn't do it, I told her. And there will be no fee at all. Oh, but we can well afford to pay, she said quickly. I insist that we pay you a fee for this study. That is very kind of you, I said, but there will be no fee. All I ask is that you see to it that he gets to the center on time and attends regularly, unless, of course, he should be ill. And I would like your permission in writing to record fully all the interviews of our study. And I will give you a written statement that in the event this material is ever used for teaching or reporting or publication in any form, all identifying information will be disguised so completely that no one will ever know or be able to guess the true identity of Dibs. I handed her the statement that had been drawn up before this meeting. She studied it carefully. Very well, she said finally. Shall I keep this? Yes. And will you and your husband sign this statement giving us your consent to record fully all the interviews with the stipulation that the material will be completely disguised if it is ever reported? She took this paper and studied it very carefully. May I keep this and discuss it with my husband and mail it to you if we decided to go through with this? Certainly you may, I said. I would appreciate it if you would let me know one way or the other as soon as you decide. She held the slip of paper gingerly. She moistened her lips. This was certainly a far cry from the usual initial interview with a mother. I felt as uncomfortable as she probably did, making a deal out of this business of seeing her child in the playroom. But I felt that this was a long chance that I had to take, or Dibs would not come to the center. I'll let you know as soon as we decide, she said. My heart sank a little. She could use this as a way out. But if she did agree to it, she committed herself to seeing it through. I was certain that if they did sign it, they would keep their part of the bargain. If they did not accept this much responsibility, we could not depend upon the necessary regular attendance. After a long pause, she said, I don't understand why, when a family is able to pay a substantial fee so that you could see another child whose parents may not be able to pay, you refuse a fee. Because my work is primarily in research to increase our understanding of children, I explained. I'm paid a salary for the work I do. This eliminates the factor of ability to pay or to feel that you are receiving a service some pay for and some do not. If you care to make a research contribution to the center quite apart from any tie-in with this particular case, that is entirely up to you. Research is primarily financed in that manner. I see, she said. But I would still be willing to pay you. I'm sure you would, I told her. And I appreciate your concern about this. However, I can only see Dibs on these conditions. I had done it now. I was way out on the limb that she could cut it off with the speed of an electric saw. I felt strongly that if we weathered this little controversy, we would have achieved something of importance in building up the necessary initial responsibility for the mother. She had probably often been able to pay her way out of taking this much involved responsibility for Dibs. I decided that it was important to eliminate this factor as best I could at this time.